Do you actually like yourself? Well, if you don't, I can guarantee you one thing: you are not alone. It amazes me how many people are walking around the place with a complete and utter lack of self worth, with massive feelings of inadequacy and shame and self loathing. And I suppose so much of this is a consequence of a childhood where your emotional needs weren't met, where there was some level of abuse, or indeed where you were harshly criticized or judged. And consequently, we create defenses. And these defenses are a way of protecting ourselves from the pain of rejection. And what we do is we internalize the rejection from our carers and turn it on ourselves. So we are rejecting ourselves at a very core level. And as I said, this can be very difficult to sit with. So, what we do is we create all of these ways of coping, such as setting perfectionist standards, such as people pleasing, such as addictions to food or to work or to technology or phones or gaming or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that we can get our hands on that will give us that little bit of relief from the emotional turmoil that we're in. And we become highly anxious, we become very controlling, and oftentimes the level of rejection that we're experiencing is so painful that it impacts on the way that we deal with others, because as I said, we can only tolerate so much self-loathing and self-disgust before it spills out. And oftentimes it spills out in irritability and a lack of patience and a lack of tolerance and jealousy and, kind of resentment of others. And I suppose these are part and parcel of being human, except when we are in a place where we are rejecting ourselves all of the time, these traits tend to take over. And as these traits take over, it becomes nearly a double whammy, because we recognize that the way that we are treating other people or the way that we are thinking about other people isn't in alignment with the loving, compassionate person that we know we inherently are inside. And yet we can't help ourselves because we're just in so much pain. I mean, so many of our thoughts and our behaviors are just a result of trying to regulate massive emotional pain and rejection internally. And I suppose we tend to try and throw concepts like self love and positive affirmations and positive thinking at it. And unfortunately, these only scratch the surface on a very short term basis, because if your inherent sense of self worth is in the shithole, then no amount of affirmations are going to change that. You need to heal, you need to work through the pain, and you need to find a way to tolerate some of those emotions, to tolerate the shadow parts of yourself, and to move forward with greater compassion, greater self awareness and understanding, and forgiveness for yourself, for the person that you have had to be in order to try and find the acceptance that you were never given. Allow yourself to be out of control. Make peace with uncertainty. Make peace with not being perfect. Explore your values. Get to know who it is that you actually are. I mean, so many of us have no idea. We create all of these kind of aesthetic looks, and we create careers, and we create relationships that are based on what we think is going to make us happy. And yet we're very poor predictors of what is actually going to make us feel good. We feel all right for a little while, and then we just get fed up and we're like, okay, I need something new. And we're constantly on this treadmill of trying to find a sense of internal equanimity, but being unable to find it, and beating ourselves up in the process and hating on ourselves. I mean, as I said, if we listen to some of the ways in which we talk to ourselves, it is disgusting. It's so punitive, it's so harsh, and it's so unnecessary. And yet it is our automatic route. It is what we have become accustomed to. It's what we have internalized. So we have to find forgiveness for that voice, but we also have to learn to introduce a new way of speaking to ourselves, to allow ourselves to feel how we feel. And this includes negative emotions like jealousy, like resentment. I mean, they are part and parcel of the human experience, except when we don't allow them to rule our lives, when we don't feel a need to repress them, when we honor ourselves and our experience, the authentic experience, no matter what it is, then things don't feel as rigid. You know, we're not as attached to things. We can just allow our thoughts, we can allow our emotions without getting too caught up in them, recognizing the impermanence of them all, and still having that solid sense of self acceptance and self worth inside. And it's not about loving yourself, it's about accepting yourself. It's about being kind to yourself. It's about being forgiving to yourself and being kind to other people as a consequence. Having conversations about what your needs are. And the more your needs are met, the more capable you are of meeting the needs of others, of seeing the needs and perspective of others, of being able to serve as opposed to just being stuck in this egocentric place of all about me, never thinking about other people. And it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Oftentimes we feel like as if, you know, if we don't talk about our pain, if we don't ever admit to the fact that we don't really like who we are and that we're scared and that we feel alone, that, you know, we're doing our jobs right, we're protecting ourselves, and yet all we're doing is keeping ourselves in this mental and emotional prison of pain. So it's having the vulnerability to recognize that you're not being kind to yourself and that you don't particularly like the person that you've become, but also recognizing that you're not going to change that by changing how you look, that you're not going to change that by changing your career or by having more money or by buying more stuff. You can only change that by being with yourself, accepting yourself, and really exploring with a curiosity and kindness who it is that you actually are, allowing yourself to be and allowing other people to be, moving from a place of self-judgment and judgment of others into a place of compassion and kindness and understanding and forgiveness, and trying to see the best in everyone, including yourself. I hope you found this helpful. If you would like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, get in touch with me on my website, which is fundamentals.ie.